we've got breaking news around the Game of Thrones prequel series, Night of the Seven Kingdoms. We also got an update of a spin-off show from Game of Thrones in development. And we also have an update around House of the Dragon Season 3 and a major battle we can expect. We're going to get into all three of those topics around the world of Westeros right now on the Sundowners Club. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We appreciate your support as we talk about all things Westeros here on the Sundowners Club. And Sterling, my co-host, we've got three things we want to talk about today that involve Game of Thrones. And we're going to start off with the head of drama programming for HBO, Francesca Orsi, who spoke to Deadline. And the first thing she talked about was obviously House of the Dragon Season 2 ended, and people realized that it seemed to be cut short, that there was no climactic finale, a big battle, something major. It almost seemed like it just kind of cut off right before something major was going to happen. And people that read the books knew, what that was leading to. And so there was disappointment around House of the Dragon Season 2. We both agreed that while we enjoyed Season 2, it was definitely flawed around some of the plot points and not as good as Season 1. Which we thought was excellent. But Season 3, Francesca Orsi has talked to Deadline, and let me get your thoughts. First, I'm going to tell you what she said, and then we'll talk about where we think Season 3 is going to go and kind of how we feel about it, going into it. She says, I'm really excited. I think you're going to be in for a great surprise on how we start the season. Not really much of a surprise. We know what's going to happen. With an exciting battle, she said, of the fantasy drama. And as Deadline's reported, the strike had caused some delays to many shows and projects. Now, although House of the Dragon was one of those that had kept moving, there were things they just couldn't do around rewrites and things around preparation. And so they trimmed Season 2 from 10 episodes to 8, and it left out something that would be known as a major battle called the Battle of the Gullet, and between the blacks and the greens. And so now that's going to be the beginning of Season 3. They've got a lot to cover in Season 3. And so as Francesca Orsi was talking about it, she said, you know what? It was worth the wait. I was just on set and saw all the elements and what was behind it. I'm so glad we waited because it's going to be better than ever. And I don't think we had the time at that point to do what it was that we achieved now with this season. It's so massive and we needed time to build it, Orsi continued. One of the lead producers on it, Kevin Delanoy, worked on Titanic, the movie. So all that he brought in terms of acumen of what happened on the Titanic and how that entire experience is built, he brings that expertise to it. So first of all, let me stop right there. The guy that worked on Titanic, does that make you feel better about knowing this is a big naval battle with dragons and ships? Any thoughts about what she's saying about starting Season 3 with a bang?
Well, I mean, she's saying all the right things. I thought we did feel like Season 2 was incomplete. You got our penultimate episode. I think it was episode 4 was kind of the only one that had any action. And I can forgive them if they still show the battle. She's saying exactly what you want to hear, that not only are they going to have it, but it's going to be better than it ever could have been. So if that's the case and that's true, then that's great. Then all's forgiven. But I don't know if she's just saying that.
Yeah, and here's the thing: there's this show's only going to run 4 seasons, so putting the battle in Season 3 means that there's going to be 1 or 2 episodes to kick off the season where something else doesn't happen. So if you only have 8 episodes in Season 3, we don't have a confirmation yet that it's definitely 8, but there's been comments by Ryan Condal, the showrunner, that it could be 8. So if it is 8, then you've got a lot of other stuff to happen beyond the Battle of the Gullet. And so the question is, we're going to get this huge battle and people are going to be excited right out of the gate when the show comes out. But, what's going to happen the rest of the season, right? They've made some choices that could, I think, hinder the plot points and upset some fans. And so, again, it remains to be seen. She's saying, like you said, all the right things. But what do you think about the guy that worked on Titanic? Obviously that's one of the great movies of all time that's had a massive ship sinking, and they had, if you remember the making of where they had it in the water with hydraulics, was really cool.
I mean, there's been issues that I've had with the show revolving around casting, and then some of the things that they've done with the story changes. But one thing I've never had a complaint on is the battles and special effects and the production quality. That's
Right.
always been top notch. So that shows to me that they're still on their A game when it comes to that. But yeah, I mean, I think that's great. That's a good sign for such a major battle, probably the most, one of the three most significant battles in that series, I believe,
Yeah,
if I'm correct.
especially for some things that happen, the
Yeah.
sequence of events. It is one of a few key. There's several key major battles, but it is definitely one of them.
So
And
yeah,
so, yeah,
that's good.
we'll see what happens. What do you think? Like, are you excited for House of the Dragon season 3 coming off of season 2? We haven't even talked about the wait. It'll be probably late 2026 before we get the show because they're filming most of this season 3 through early to mid fall of this year. So they've got a lot of work to do before they put the show out next year. So it's going to be a 2-year wait between season 2 and season 3. Again, we've talked about that.
Yeah.
That people just kind of lose interest, right? They forget, and so we'll see if that plays out.
I
But
don't understand that. If you've already, signed on to do 3 or 4 seasons, I don't get why they don't just do 2 seasons at a time. It doesn't make any sense to me. But
yeah, but
um,
we do have something to tide us over in between now and then, and that is the Night of the Seven Kingdoms, and very different shows set in the world of Westeros in tone and scale. And Francesca Orsi also spoke about Night of the Seven Kingdoms, and we're going to talk about that right now. So again, speaking to Deadline, she mentioned George Martin's praise for Night of the Seven Kingdoms. He's seen at this point several of the episodes. There's only 6 for this first season, and we covered that in one of our prior videos. Go check that video out that we did a few weeks back, and George Martin's comments around that. So as she was talking about that she said, you're going to be so impressed with Peter Claffey and Dexter Saul Ansel as Dunk and Egg, the 2 leads, the sort of brotherhood, the paternal nature between Dunk and this young man. So much so that we're already planning on how do we build this for the 3 seasons in total. We're not picking it up officially, but it's looking very good. We're looking at it as a holistic piece, seasons 2 and 3, because there's 3 novellas. And she left the door open for more because, as we know, George R. R. Martin has commented about he's got more novellas coming in the world of Dunk and Egg. We'll see what he puts out. If he puts out anything before Winds of Winter, again, we've debated that endlessly. George always seems distracted by whatever, piques his curiosity on any given day in his mood. So we'll have to wait to see what else comes out in the world of Dunk and Egg in written form. But she let the door open for continuing the story, but she talks about the challenges around this because one of the main characters is a small boy, and she says the role of Egg only spans not even a year. So you have to roll into it season to season pretty quickly because this little kid will grow up too quickly if we wait too long. So we're thinking about that in terms of the pickups and the renewals of the seasons. And so what she's really talking about is she's mentioned there's a potential to film seasons 2 and 3 back to back. So that could be good news for getting Night of the Seven Kingdoms if people get excited and they enjoy the first season. You get season 2 the next year, season 3 the following year, and you're done. So it's a contained story, at least until George writes more.
that makes sense, though. I mean, when you're dealing with a kid that age, they change so much every year. So if you're telling a story that's supposed to take place within a short time span, and then you come back the next season and it looks like a totally different kid,
Absolutely.
that's
And
going to kind of kill immersion.
And what's
there.
really cool for people that understand the Blackfire rebellions and what happens at Summerhall later on in Aegon's life, we won't spoil that here. But if people really love this show and this kid grows up looking the part and he has blonde hair, very blonde hair that will be shaved in this series, but we could see this same actor show up years later playing an older Aegon, and that could be fascinating. But it's good news around Night of the Seven Kingdoms. There seems to be a lot of goodwill around that. Looking forward to it. But we've got one last topic, Sterling, and we've talked about it before. Francesca Orsi did mention something else around the intimate production while she was speaking about Night of the Seven Kingdoms. And then she says this is a more intimate production, more contained. that will be the exception and not the norm in growing the Game of Thrones universe. We have other spinoffs that we're working on right now, one of which I won't get into, is very promising, and it's still the Targaryen line, Orsi said. There's a number of other spinoffs. We can't really guarantee what's going to go forward, but we're a very big budget on the other ones. I would say this is the most intimate one, Night of the Seven Kingdoms. So, sounds like they're very close to announcing, if the fact that she's actually mentioning a specific spinoff and then saying it takes place, it's still the Targaryens.
Yeah. That's only two options.
Well,
right?
there could be several options if you really want to get into George's books in certain time frames, but there's one that we think it's going to be, right?
I think there's two that are more likely than others, and I would say that'd be the Blackfyre Rebellion or Aegon's Conquest.
Blackfyre would not necessarily make sense. I mean, it could, because it would technically come out after
House of
Dunk
the
and
Dragon,
Egg has
right?
ended.
Oh, okay.
So the Blackfyre Rebellion has to really kind of be in I think from a time frame sequence with Dunk and Egg, but it's Aegon's Conquest. It's got to be Aegon's Conquest.
Yeah,
because
that's the one I want to see the most.
Here's what you have to understand about the Blackfyre Rebellion: there's no dragons. So when she says this is the most intimate one, Night of the Seven Kingdoms, and the other one we're doing is very big budget.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
That's Aegon's Conquest. This is Aegon the Conqueror. We've talked about it. They're going to do, it could be at the movie theater that leads into it, the Doom of Valyria at the movie theater that ends with a young Aegon on Dragonstone. We don't know what's going to happen with the actual film that will be in the theaters, but this is Aegon's Conquest. We're going to see Westeros being conquered by Aegon Targaryen, Aegon the First, and that's our opinion of what she's talking about there. We're finally going to see Balerion the Black Dread. We're going to see a younger Vhagar. We've seen an old Vhagar now in House of the Dragon, and Meraxes and the sister wives, and it's going to be Baratheons and Harrenhal in its glory before it was summarily burned. And so, is this the story you most are looking forward to, Aegon's Conquest?
Yeah, and I think they had mentioned rumors that they were talking about that from a while ago. We had done episodes on that about that being a rumor. So, yeah, I hope so. I think that's what most people would want to see, especially fans of the books.
There's the one thing that I've wanted to see more than anything around this story when you read the books is I've wanted to see the visual manifestation of Balerion the Black Dread. Yeah. When I finally see that, if they get that right, the sheer size and scale of this dragon is going to be amazing to see. And then the things that Balerion does will be amazing too. So, 3 different topics that set around the world of Westeros. What do you think? Do you like what you're hearing from Francesca Orsi with HBO around House of the Dragon Season 3, Night of the Seven Kingdoms, and what we think that she's mentioning is Aegon's Conquest? Let us know what you think. While you're doing that, smash that like button, share our video out with your friends, and most importantly, hit subscribe so we can continue to grow our channel. TCB.